Well, my friends. Today, if you're gonna think you're gonna get upset with my program, it's part of my theatrical therapy. I'm making fun of nobody. I'm gonna talk about myself, and it helps me to get through trauma in life. As I got this big mixing pot, and it's around Halloween, we're gonna mix up quite a few issues up. Statewide, worldwide, and try to just get you all engaged before voting time. We're not going to agree on issues, but at the end of the day, let's all try to be friends. No violence, no threatening. Whoever wins, Democrat, Republican, let's just all get along. But we're all going to respect each other's views and issues, and I'm just going to present my issues today. There'll be a little bit of jokes. Don't have any hard feelings. It's just going to be sharing some fun and laughs. So as I start the program, I'm Paul Reese, and it's called Vermont's Dumbest Resident, which I believe I am the dumbest resident in the state of Vermont. I'm going to tell you why, and some excitement that happened in my life. First of all, this young lady here. I was looking in Vermont for a young lady to date, and as a 60-year-old man, I couldn't find anyone. So I drove down by the river, and I met this beautiful woman. Her name is Dollface, and she's going to help tell the story. Yeah, she isn't the most beautiful girl. There is sometimes that I have to try to drink a little alcohol to drink her pretty. Sometimes we get in a few fights, and at the end of the day, maybe I can consider a hound dog ugly where I have to chew my own arm off to get away. But she's a nice person, and I enjoy that. One time a train came through Vermont, and the conductor saw her, and she caused the train to take a dirt road. So let's begin the story of Paul Reese's journey through life. Why I consider myself one of the dumbest residents in Vermont is back in 2008, I think I was 44 years old. I had a little memory loss. I was getting confused with a lot of issues. So I actually went to a local hospital, and the doctor said, let's get an MRI on the brain to see if there's a damage from boxing, maybe football or something. So they did an MRI, and on the MRI, believe it or not, it says with or without brain. And at the end of the day, the report says I have a brain, but they said I was having hypertension, mini strokes, which would cause me confusion. Nobody could figure out what the problem is, so I went on YouTube and looked at the brain, and I started studying this brain. And I'm actually going to donate my brain someday to science, because I believe there is deep trauma injuries in my skull. I had one time pedaled a bicycle so fast to make it to my construction job, and the gate was shut in the morning. I hit it dead center in the gate, went over the handlebars. There could have been head damage there. I told you how I fell out of a car. I was laying in a sled, it hit a wall. I received many concussions in football, boxing. I drove a car into a 3-foot tree. So I believe there is damage, and I want to be able to help other people. And then I also found out people with intellectual disabilities that fluoride in your water now, a federal judge has determined that it causes intellectual disabilities. So I asked the water department, how much fluoride do you put in the water around here? I had water, it used to travel not only with fluoride, but asbestos pipes when I was a kid. But we're going to go on with a little bit of the story. As you see, this funnel is basically explaining how government doesn't take responsibility. People on the bottom of the food chain get blamed for everything. Government officials are up top, they're the high money makers, and the addicts, the little people, are on the bottom, and things run downhill. So as we do this science experiment, and it's just like a toilet bowl, you dump the liquid and it runs downhill. Oh my gosh, what an experiment. So a lot of times problems with government isn't the people on the bottom. It's the people on the top. Now, when you see these elected officials traveling around and they says, I'm in touch with you, I don't believe they are. Where do they shop for their clothing? I went to the Goodwill store in Brattleboro, picked up a nice pair of pants for $5. Because with the economy, I no longer could buy pants for $54, my favorite brand. Then we take this shirt. Somebody probably wore it for like 20 years of their life. At the Goodwill store in Brattleboro, I picked it up for $2. I was so happy. So when politicians say they're in touch with you, they understand, I don't believe they do. Do they shop at the Goodwill store? Now, the reason I'm here venting my medical issues with you, I went out and reached out to my therapist in July for counseling. She said I take Medicaid. Well, 4 months went by. She says, Paul, I can't see you anymore. I don't get paid by Medicaid. Well, I don't blame the lady if you don't get paid. So at the end of the day, she didn't get paid. I don't have the cash. So I says I won't show up anymore. So I discussed it with the local police chief, and he laughed, and we realized that people with mental health issues, the system doesn't work. When you reach out and you can't get help, that's where you end up on a TV show. Well, anyways, I was tested by a psychologist, Dr. Richard Root, in 2008, and I am smarter than a third grader. We'll test grades or compare them if you want, but actually I have post-traumatic intellectual disabilities, ADHD, which I never knew for 40 years, and I don't know what it was caused from. But one of the funnest things I've learned, if you're a poor resident, you do crazy stuff. My wash machine broke down like a year ago. Water was puking outside. I didn't have $700 to buy a wash machine. So you have to turn into a genius. I put a plastic kid swimming pool underneath, and I have to take a vacuum cleaner and clean up the water in the pool, but at least it's not on the floor. But when I save up $700, you candidates for president, I may be able to afford a new luxury wash machine. We're going to talk about news. I buy the paper every day. Half of it I use to light the wood stove because I consider most of this fake news. Fake. My kids laugh whenever I go on a vacation with them. They said, Dad, why do you pack your own toilet paper? Maybe it ain't normal, but I don't like hotel toilet paper. So as I got older, in my 60s, almost 61, I packed Charmin. I like it. It's soft. So that's, maybe it's a mental health issue, but I just like Charmin, so I park it. We're going to talk how this country has got some serious problems, my friend. And I hope the young people realize it, the old people do. We are $353 trillion in debt. That means red. Red, my friend. It doesn't mean a positive. It's a red. There's nothing in my piggy bank, okay? It's all gone. All gone. All my money's gone. See these? These are pennies. What I have for money at the bank, presidential candidates, I get 1 cent, 1 cent, American money, 1 cent or 3 cents interest on my money. I have no money. And I'm finding out I'm not the only one. We're $353 million, $1 trillion in debt. People are buying these $100,000 cars and vehicles. They're going to get repoed, my friend. If these car dealers can't make vehicles for $20,000 or whatever, you're going to get them back. You're going to get them back. You take this housing thing. I got all these little houses here. There's 10 houses, all right? 10 houses. Well, you better pay attention, my friend. The housing now owned by private individuals, 6 out of every 10 homes are owned by corporations and investors. So a lot of you young people are never going to own a home. So be very careful who you vote for. Many of these banking industries got sticky fingers. They've been stealing millions and billions of dollars from the American people. And you say, how? Well, you need to feed your kids. What do you use? A credit card. The end of the day, the interest could be 26%. You don't pay that 26%. What do? Put a lien against your property or house. Soon, they'll have a law firm from Texas. They will take your house away. It's a crooked system set up to fail. Now, you can get this, I guess it's called a Bitcoin, is this new thing. I don't want no Bitcoin, okay? No Bitcoin. Tom Brady and a few people invested in lots of money. I want true cash. I want to be able to have a yard sale. Sell something for $75 a chainsaw. I want cash. I do not want this digital currency that people continue to talk about. See this wallet? It used to be, if you had a wallet in your pocket and somebody tried to steal you, you could fight them. Fight them, and take your wallet back. Well, this digital currency, my friend, be really, really careful. I just had a son that had $3,000 removed from his bank just by cybercrime. Yeah, he did get it back. I talked to other neighbors. Almost every neighbor has had money stolen for a debit or an ATM card. Hackers will hack in and steal your money. I don't want digital currency and try to lean away from it. Now we're going to go and talk a little bit about politics. You know, I believe that the top 100 people, richest people, are actually running this country. It's not going to be Donald Trump. It's not going to be Kamala Harris. It's the top 100. Did you get invited to the dinners that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars? You and me didn't. Okay? So they have to pay back and give the gift back after they're elected. One of the other things we talked about when learning disabilities and emotional abuse is just as bad as physical abuse. When I struggled learning in 4th grade at the middle school, they had this room called 103. Well, anyone that had learning disabilities, my friends used to chant. When they knew I was struggling, spelling my name, everything else, they would say, Mentee B 103. So they sent me to room 103. I don't know if it still exists, but I had some troubles. Now we're going to talk on, let me see, the Secret Service. You might not like it. I believe you fixed the problem. The top lady did step down. But as a kid, common sense. You got to have some common sense, man. This high-tech stuff's crazy. See this? When I was a kid, it's called a walkie-talkie. Hello, hello, man on a roof, man on a roof. You communicate with your fellow officers, plain and simple. Anyone that's been in the woods knows what these are. Binoculars. You can look far away. I mean, are we that incompetent that nobody took binoculars? Nobody used a walkie-talkie? And then sometimes, I've never felt comfortable wearing dark sunglasses my whole life. I put them on, I can't see nothing. So maybe Secret Service should take the sunglasses off and observe more. I've learned my 50-something years of investigating thing. Use your eye. That's an eyeball. An eyeball to look around and observe. Use your ears. God gave you some ears. That's this thing right here. Learn to open it up and listen. Nose. You can smell. Even a German Shepherd can smell pretty good. And then your mouth. I notice people don't want to speak up. Why don't they want to speak up? Everybody's afraid. Well, Mr. Reese isn't afraid because I've basically been declared unemployable because I do speak up. And I'll tell you the way it is. We're going to talk about these Mr. Diddy's legal problems. We're going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein a little. Christopher Wray, FBI. I ain't stupid here in Vermont. I ask you, I call out to you, Christopher Wray. Let us know who's on the tapes at the Jeffrey Epstein island. I had a chance to go to the islands years ago. Let us know who's in the Diddy situation here. Are we covering up for high-ranking people? And with the Epstein thing, do you honestly believe that Mr. Reese believes that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself with a soft hanging? I don't believe that for a minute. I've done some research, studying, investigating, and it was brought to my attention that actually his neck bone was broken. And the guy that did the autopsy said he's done 1,000 autopsies and he's never seen a neck broken like that from a soft hanging. He wanted to testify. Was he silenced because he was going to drag some people in? I believe that's the situation there. So you're not fooling anyone by just saying it. We got this little thing. It's called guns. You know what? Maybe people should have their guns. I don't know. I watched a law enforcement officer in Florida, a sheriff. He says, everybody go out and buy a gun. Arm yourself. He said, I don't have enough law enforcement to protect yourself. But this is how foolish it's got. When I was a kid, we played guns, cap guns, realistic. Now there's a warning not to bring this in public. So I hope this isn't a crime that I brought it in public, but it is a fake gun. And I don't own a gun, so don't nobody get nervous. Now we talk about abuse a little bit. I bet most of you kids, I forgive relatives, but I remember getting whipped, just like an animal. I would be down in my mom's basement, I'd run, scream, cry, and you'd get whipped. Well, I tell you what, I'm not an animal. It kind of hurts. So, you know what? So that's a little bit of trauma. We forgive, we let go, we move on, we make a little humor out of it. This is the little Pinocchio story. Maybe the United States story is starting to become a little Pinocchio story. I don't know. I can't believe politicians anymore. I kind of can't believe some law enforcement. Watch the Karen Reed trial. I was surprised. Watch the other police officer that they allege murdered a young girl. I mean, when does it stop? I've watched bad officers in Tennessee. I've watched them in the state of Vermont, New Hampshire. So even though you have a badge, I like to think 1,000 officers are good and there's one bad. But public safety, root out these bad people. Now we're going to slow things down a little, and I'm going to introduce some people that I brought. Let them just speak for a minute for Halloween. All right, now we'll try to get into a little better atmosphere. We'll bring in some good spirit, some good positive energy into the show here a little bit. Okay. Now, you know you're dumb when you try to get in the military. 3 times I wanted to be a Marine, so the recruiter would pick me up and take me to Manchester. I guess it was New Hampshire. I don't know if there's a Manchester, Massachusetts. I just got in the car, went for a ride with them. Friday night we had dinner. You take a big test, and you get to, if you pass the test, you go to San Diego in the Navy or whatever. Well, I actually got a ride home 3 times in a row. I thank the government for that meal. And basically, they gave up on me because everyone, I guess, just figured I was too dumb. Well, I found out some of the smartest people actually get picked for the CIA that have been through trauma because they can use their other senses to pick out stuff. Now, you guys, I was working a job once, and the supervisor called on the phone. He says, go on to my computer and grab the mouse. Well, this is what I was facing, this big dashboard thing, and then this thing here. He says, go on and push the buttons, do this and that. Well, I didn't see no mouse. And he says, well, can't you see the mouse? Can't you see the mouse? Having a fit. Well, you know what? When I grew up, this was a mouse. This was a mouse. You know, not this. So somehow, you know, they changed the mouse to the mouse. Maybe you just say computer control. I don't know. But now we're going to talk about a kind of a sensitive issue, I guess. A lot of you saw what happened in Israel, and I guess they planned it for 15 years, where phones, pagers could be detonated. Well, let me tell you, I watched a general, and he says basically that could happen in the United States too. He says your toaster could explode, your television, your car, anything that's electronically controlled. So what I'm trying to say is, I just hope 15 years from now, karma doesn't come around to the United States. Now, as I have my ballot in front of me, okay, I'm very confused on who I'm going to vote for as I look at the ballot. But at the end of the day, I was a big Kennedy supporter, and I went over to Walpole, watched his rally. I saw fake news that said no one attended. There was like 500 people in the mud. I have been a Democrat my whole life. I do not like what they did to Kennedy. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. I know the key players behind the scene that did it. So this year, you know what? I am going to support Casey Coda because I am for my heating oil, and I want heating oil. I'm also going to support Charity Clark. Other shows, they said maybe I won for Attorney General. She won $3.1 million from Johnson & Johnson baby powder that will get over 4 years. I believe it was part of a $700 million lawsuit with 43 states. I use Johnson & Johnson powder for my socks and for my underwear every day. So I'm glad she stuck up and they agreed not to use, I don't know, talc and asbestos or something that was back in 2017 or something. So I'll vote for her. But I'm also going to vote for Donald Trump. And you say, why? Well, after all they put him through, all the felonies, all the charges, at the end of the day, he tells the truth, kind of like me. So I'll be voting for Donald Trump this year. As, once again, we talk all these electric cars, electric batteries. If the post office wants to use them for their rigs, I don't want to. I don't want 20 minutes to charge my car, 40 minutes to charge my car. I filled up at Coda & Coda yesterday. It took me 1 minute to put 12.5 gallons in. So if you want that, you can have it, but don't mandate it to me. State of Vermont thinks everyone wants solar. Well, I've been running these little solar panel things. Sure, they're just for spotlights for years. And what I found is if you get a week worth of rain, no lights work. So I don't believe solar panels is the way to go here, always in Vermont. Maybe Arizona, California, Texas, where they have more sun. Hats off to them. Now we're going to just talk, once again, a little bit about drugs. They found some of this cocaine. It's not real cocaine, it's flowers, at the Washington, D.C. You mean to tell me the FBI, they do got fingerprints? They ain't going to let you know who has that, right? You got the finger, here's the fingerprints. Do they got the straws? Yeah, so I just don't believe the CIA, FBI, all these people are incompetent at figuring out where drugs are coming in this country. I mean, they got over, I think I read $2 million into Vermont. So find where the stuff comes from. We're going to talk about poor Justin Bieber. Justin, I had a chance to meet Justin, believe it or not, years ago. I was in Mexico. We're on Carnival Cruise. And this young man with another kid came up, and they were playing with my kids on the ship. And I grabbed his arm and I said, buddy, you might want to lift some weights if you're going to play football. And I never knew it was Justin Bieber. So the cruise was over. We were going home. And my daughter says, do you know who you talked to? And I said, no. And he says, it's Justin Bieber. I didn't even know who he was. So Justin, with all your trauma and troubles, if you want to reach out to me, I was on that same cruise ship. And your mother was dancing. And I was the guy that won the hairiest, our third place, hairiest chess competition on the cruise. So you can find me, reach out to me if you ever want to talk about trauma. We could share some stories. I've learned now in the medical field, sometimes I go on YouTube, I got to fix myself. And you know what I've learned? When you get older, get some flax seeds, get some chia seeds, get some pumpkin seeds, and you know what? You pretty much don't need none of this medicine. We are addicted to medicine, medicine, medicine. I don't like these new things. I guess they're called apps or something. Everyone's buying things with apps and these things. I'm going to mail the Department of Motor Vehicles. I'll mail you a check. I don't have a phone. I don't know how to do apps. Let me bend down and get my bracelet. Kamala Harris, I was told at one of your events you had a $60,000 necklace on mingling with little people. Well, this is my little necklace right here. It's got a lot of jewels, a lot of diamonds on it. But the true story about that, My mother gave me a crucifix as a Catholic before she died. It was true gold. I was so hard up for money, I took it to the pawn shop and got $110 for it. But you know what my mom gave me? I don't need that crucifix. She gave me faith, and I believe in God. I watch miracles before my eyes every day. I watched a little bird this year build this little nest. You know what? So I don't believe in politicians. I actually believe in God, that God controls everything. Now, you worry about all this global warming, all this, my friends, and everyone's promoting global warming. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not really concerned about that. As Tulsi Gabbard said, I'd be more concerned about a nuclear war right now. And you know what? This is burnt toast. This is what we're going to look like if we don't de-escalate the situation in the world with all the fighting. Half of our Navy is now in the Middle East. And one general said, we're actually in a third world war, that the people don't realize it yet. Stop selling everyone weapons just for money. BlackRock, we know what the big picture is. My friends, fruits, bananas, vegetables is the best thing for your health. The only thing I found when I wanted a pear this year, it had to come from Argentina. And the tomato came from Canada. So I was kind of concerned with that. Vermont has to realize there's going to be winners and losers in this next campaign. And as you take your Kleenex, don't do anything violent. If Donald Trump wins, he wins. Kamala Harris wins, she wins. But Paul Reese will be supporting the following candidates. The other candidates are wonderful people too, but they're not on my issues. Vermont, like I said, I call it the downsizing of everything. Well, it got to the point where regular toilet paper is now 94 cents a roll if you want quality Charmin. Is it time that Vermont's going to have to go to the big roll and use newspaper? I mean, it's got to the point that something's got to give here. We can't control everything. And lastly, as I wrap up the show, I'd like to congratulate Bellows Falls. I never thought in my history that the taxes and water bill is now more than my house payment. It is actually $164.83 more than my house payment. So congratulations. Water and sewer in Bellows Falls is now $6,425.11. In 20 years, I will pay to live in the community $128,502.20. My house payment each year is $6,260.28. It just blows my mind that I'm going to build my house 3 times over in this community. Talk about housing issues. I have a little prop that I'm going to show you. Bernie Sanders has been on the banking committee, known about the credit card stuff, known what's gone on for years. I think 35 years. So I do want him to resign and get done, give someone else a chance. When I was a kid, is this going to be affordable housing in Vermont? A cardboard box? It's so sad. We need 50,000 of these little houses. And when I was a kid, we grabbed a refrigerator box, dryer box, cut holes, doors in it, and you made a home. I got a lot of friends that live down by the river, and that's where I met the girl. We live down by the river, and you ought to go, when you come do your political stuff and meet the people, you know, pick up that phone. Pick up the phone, call Mr. Reese. I got a lot of friends that live down by the river or in prison, and you'll get the true stories, not these little things. But that's going to wrap it up today. But remember, Dollface is very special to me, and she's helped me to get through a tough situation. Let's give Dollface a good kiss and thank the audience. Mwah!